All right, hopefully you guys can see and hear. What we're going to be discussing today is how do we how do we graph linear functions? And we're going to talk about slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and then standard form. First, let's review what slope-intercept form is. For slope-intercept form, this is y equals mx plus b. All right, and anytime we have equations in this form, we need to remember that m is the slope. Okay, this is the slope, meaning y over x. And our b stands for our y-intercept. When we graph in slope-intercept form, the first step is to plot our y-intercept. Our second step is to use the slope to plot more points. And finally, once we have the amount of points that we want, we're going to draw a line to connect those points. So let's remember that when we're referring to our y or our y-intercept, we're talking about that point being on the y-axis right here. Our y-intercept is always going to be on our y-axis, okay? So the 0 for this y-axis is right here in the center. This is where y is 0. And when we want positive y values, we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for instance, and feel free to number them. And when we want to go negative, we start at the center and just go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can number these. Okay, so our y-intercept is somewhere along this line, y-axis. Of course, our x-axis is where we're going to have our x-intercept. So we'll talk about that a little later. But for now, let's stick to graphing in slope-intercept form. So let's say, for example, we have y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Now, we said we need to plot our y-intercept, but we need to first identify it, all right? So we're looking in this equation in the b spot for the y-intercept, and it looks to be positive 1. All right, it looks to be positive 1. Probably should have done this in the same color, so let's do it in purple, okay? So now we're going to plot it on our y-axis because that's where the y-intercept goes. We start at 0 and go up 1, and that is the y-intercept. So we're going to put a nice big dot. From here, we need to use our slope. Well, first we got to identify it. So our slope here in the m spot is the number in front of the x, which appears to be 1/2. So m equals 1/2, also known as y over x. Now, let me start putting some numbers on our x-axis. The x-axis here is where the 0 is. If we go right, that's positive x values. If we go left, that's negative x values. So here, if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 1, 2. Now, from here, we're putting these on the x-axis so that it'll help us when we're using our slope to plot a new point. Now, we already completed the first step, plotted our y-intercept. We start here at the y-intercept and use the slope. The slope is a positive 1. Positive values go up. So we're going to go up 1 according to this rule. And then since this x is a positive 2, positive numbers are going towards the right. So we're going to go right 2 and then plot our point. That's how we use the slope to plot points. So if we want to plot a new point, we start at the last point we made and then use the slope again. Up 1, that's the change in y value. And then the x is right 2 because it's positive. And then we plot our point. From here, we use a straight edge and make a line, okay? We use a straight edge and make a line. And there we go. Now we see some key features here. Key features are just things that identify a graph. We see our y-intercept, which we know is 1, but we also see our x-intercept, also known as our 0. So our x-intercept seems to be right here at -1, 0. But sometimes you're going to see it written as a 0. So our 0 here is -1. Our 0 is -1. Again, x-intercepts and zeros are the same thing. It's just a key feature that we wanted to identify, okay? Now let's talk about if we want to graph in point slope form. Let's not forget point slope is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So do recognize, number 1, m is still the slope. That number in front of the parentheses is our slope. You know, y over x. And then our x1 and y1 represent our point. Okay? Notice this x1 is a negative x1, but what we wrote was positive. And notice that the y1 is negative, but we wrote positive. So it's always the opposite sign of what we see for this point in point slope form. So in order to graph it, we're gonna first plot our point. Okay, so it's very similar to slope-intercept, except with slope-intercept, we start on the y-axis and plot our y-intercept. Here, in order to graph, we're going to plot our point, the x1, y1, and then we're going to use the slope to plot more points. After we plotted our points, we're going to draw our line, and then we'll be done. So let's say, for example, we have y minus 2 equals -4 times x plus 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and highlight our y-axis here. So we know this is up and down is y, right? That's all the y. And then here, is the x-axis, okay? So when we're talking about changing y up and down, changing x left and right, remember in the middle is 0, so when we go up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and then right, okay? So now that we've done this, let's identify this point. Our point, we're looking at our x. So here it's +1. So we're going to write the opposite, which is -1. For our y1, it looks to be -2. So we write the opposite, which is +2. And then for our slope, we just look right in front of the parentheses, and that's the slope, -4, which can be written as -4 over 1. Don't forget, that's our y over x, okay? Y over x. So let's go ahead and plot our point. Remember, this point won't be on the y-axis, right? Because we have our x is -1, so that means we start here in the middle. And to get x is -1, we go left 1, but then we also need to go up 2 to reach the point -1, 2. Okay, that's our point -1, 2. Now, we start from this point, and then we use our slope to plot a new point. So remember, slope is y over x. Since the y is negative, then we need to go down, because this is where the negative values are. So we need to go towards that. And since 1 is x and is positive, then we need to go right towards the positive values. So we start here and we go down 2, well actually 4. So down 1, 2, 3, 4. But then right towards the x, 1. So here we go. And all we need is 2 points in order to make a line. So we're not going to go any further. We're just going to go ahead and make our line the way we need to. So here it is. Okay. That's point slope form. Now, one more. Let's talk about how do we graph if we're given standard form. Now, you may or may not know, and don't feel stressed out if you don't know each form, because you're going to be given this form on your test, and you can look under here to look at all the forms. But you do need to know by memory how to find the slope given standard form, or we're going to use x and y intercepts. So let's look at it. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. And so for us, we're going to use our x and y intercepts in order to graph this, because it's easy to find the x and y intercepts. For example, let's say I give you 2x plus 3y equals 6. In order to find the x-intercept here, we're going to make y equal to 0 and solve for x. So what's that going to look like? We're going to write 2x plus 3, but instead of y, we're substituting 0 equals 6. If we simplify this, this becomes 3 times 0, which is 0. 2x plus 0, it's just 2x equals 6, right? So basically this cancels. Divide each side by 2, and we see that our x-intercept is 3. And we can actually plot this on a graph, right? We said before that up and down is our y-axis, so this axis right here. Getting a little, just do it here. Here's our y-axis, and then here, this is our x-axis. So we just came up with our x-intercept, which is positive 3. We know in the middle is where x and y are both 0. So if we go to the right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we go to the left, that's -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So if we come here on the x-axis to positive 3, put our dot, that's our x-intercept. Now for our y-intercept, this is where we make x equal to 0 and solve for y. So in this problem, we write 2, but instead of 0, we're going to substitute, instead of x, we substitute 0. We know 2 times 0 is just 0, so we're left with 3y equals 6. Divide by 3, and y is equal to 2. So this is our y-intercept. So we're going to go on our y-axis. Since it's a positive, we know we need to go up 2 and put a point. And that's our y-intercept. So we have our x-intercept and our y-intercept. Now all we have to do is to just draw a line. And yes, I am using my ID card. There it is. And here's our graph. Our y-intercept is here at 2 and our x-intercept is here at 3. This is how we graph using standard form. It's so easy to just find the x-intercept and y-intercept. That's it.